Let's move into, okay, so we talked about, we're going to be teaching through the book of Ephesians. Jeremy, talk a little bit about how we are going to do Ephesians. That might be different than the way they might have heard it before.
If you're connected at Grace Church, you're getting a lot of teaching. And especially if you're connected at the Master's University and Grace Church, you're getting a lot of sermons, a lot of teaching, which is amazing. And we've wanted to take a bit of a different approach at Valley and look at books of the Bible from a higher lens. So more of a 30,000-foot view rather than walking through the forest and looking at every leaf. Which means we've done things like we did the book of Romans in 12 weeks. We did the book of Hebrews in 12 weeks. We did the pastoral epistles in, I think, 8 weeks or so. And we're doing more overview of books, zooming in at points and not missing the marrow of the truth and getting in there, but also wanting to give you a big picture. And the advantage of that is it opens your eyes to maybe the broader purpose of some of these letters or some of these books, because it's easy to get in the weeds of a theological argument that Paul is making in Romans chapter 6 and take 6 weeks to go through that, and you kind of forget the entire purpose of, wait, why did he write Romans to who, and what's the purpose, and what is it? So we've wanted to just take a bit of a different approach. Not that you don't get that anywhere else at Grace Church or something, but we want that to kind of be one of the dimensions of what Valley does. And it also caters to Joey's strength of preaching multiple chapters within 10 minutes in a sermon. So Joey has this beautiful gift of being able to preach like an entire book of the Bible in 15 minutes, and I get through like the introductory illustration in 15 minutes. So,
although I did do a one-word sermon when we did Romans.
It's nothing to be proud of, Joey. It's nothing to be proud of. No, it's a phenomenal sermon. So it was on righteousness.
Yeah.
I remember that. So we'll be looking at what book again? Oh, Ephesians in a kind of a maybe 6 or 7, 8?
I think it's 7 or 8 weeks.
7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So that'll start next week. We'll jump into it. But there's, we want to give me a little taste of what's to come, maybe. So talk about Ephesians, Joe.
Yeah, I think Ephesians, Paul is doing something that is otherworldly. He's writing to a number of churches, particularly the church of Ephesus, but what we gather is we know that he knew the Ephesians church because he spent so much time in Ephesus. But when he writes the book of Ephesians, it's a little bit more like he's not getting as personal as some of his other letters. And the question is, well, why is that? And come to find out, it's most likely and we get this, we pick up clues from other books, that Ephesians was a circular letter written to multiple churches to be passed around. So it's a little bit more general, it's a little more broad, not as specific of addressing certain problems in a particular church or not answering certain questions that were asked of him of a church. It's a little bit more applicable to any church. Yeah. So that's actually helpful for us.
Because of that, it's not dealing with one particular issue.
Right.
People or commentators have looked at Ephesians as maybe like the ultimate Pauline letter. If you want to understand Pauline theology, you go to the book of Ephesians.
Yeah.
And so there's something really special about that because it's going to be, especially for you guys at this stage in life where I keep saying you, where we are all younger. We are at a place, I keep saying that. We're at a place where we're forming foundational convictions for life, which is why we're, in college ministry wanting to build some theological, moorings in our life. Mm-hmm. And the book of Ephesians is going to do that. It's going to give us, well, really, I would say there's 2 things I want you to take away from this study in Ephesians over the next 2 months or so, and it would be this. I want you to understand what it means to be in Christ. And so even this week, as you are reading the book of Ephesians, which would be a great exercise getting ready for next week's opening sermon, just notice, and you could even take a red marker or something, all the times where Paul says, in him, in Christ Jesus, in Christ, in Jesus, and it's all over the book. Mm-hmm. And it's this sadly neglected theological truth called union with Christ, which is the result of our salvation. When you are converted, you are actually joined to Jesus Christ. In a mystical, spiritual way, in a representative way, which means he represents you to the Father, but there is actually this union of your soul to Christ, so that when Jesus encounters the Apostle Paul, before he's the Apostle Paul, on the road to Damascus to murder Christians, Jesus says to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And what he's saying is, when you persecute them, you're persecuting me, because they are in me and I am in them. This is that incredible reality of John 17, this union of the triune Godhead with every believer. And I say it's neglected because oftentimes we don't read about it or hear about it. And the book of Ephesians begins with, what does it mean to be united to Jesus Christ? Mm-hmm. So that's the first one. I want you to walk away with an understanding of your union with Christ. Sinclair Ferguson often, or has said that often pastoral ministry comes down to simply this: reminding Christians who they are.
That's good.
And so many counseling situations or situations in your life could be solved if you have a loved one, a friend, a pastor, sit you down and say, okay, now let me just remind you who you are, Christian. And the implications of that is the second point of what I want you to take away. So what does it mean to be in Christ? And then what does it mean to be in church? Because Paul goes immediately from our union with Christ directly affects our union with everyone else. And so you have this incredible moment in the second chapter where he talks about all of the dividing walls being broken down between Jew and Gentile, so that in the church, socioeconomic, racial, cultural statuses drop. There's no walls. You walk into the church, a true church, and we're all on the same level playing field of being in Christ. Mm-hmm. So you're joined to Christ and the glories of that. You want to revel in that and rejoice in that? Great. And then Paul turns around and says that has immediate implications for how you deal with the person next to you. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited for you for that, because you guys are at a point in your life where you're making decisions as autonomous adults. You're really, from high school to college, you're going to look back in 4 years, if you're a freshman now, you're going to look back at 4 years and go, I was a kid and I've grown up so much. By the way, that keeps happening in life. Yeah. But you're going to grow so much because the keys of the car are thrown to you. You have your own place to live. You have your own schedule. College is not like high school. It's not like you start at 7:15 and you get out at 3. You can go, I'll take this class at 9 and I'll make a long weekend for myself. And you're an adult. You're doing your thing. Well, what that means is, if you don't have a robust understanding of what it means to be in the church because of your union with Christ, you're not setting yourself up for success of all the trials and tribulations that are coming your way, because life is hard. Yeah. Some of you know that already. Some of you are yet to experience that. And you need to have a robust commitment to the local church, because the local church is going to be your lifeline in life. Mm-hmm. It's going to be your community, your counselors, it's going to be your friends, it's going to be those who expose you and rebuke you, come alongside of you. It's your fellow churchmen who will be weeping with you at the funeral of your loved one, will be rejoicing with you as she walks down the aisle and grabbing your arm going, congratulations, when you welcome a child. This is your family. And so you've got to have a commitment to your family in Christ. And Paul is going to tell you all about that. So you're not going to get from me and Joey this, come to church, show up to church. What you're going to get from the book of Ephesians is the glories of what it means to be privileged to be a member of the family of God, the household of God, which is a metaphor Paul uses in Ephesians. And it's going to make you go, I want to be committed to the church. I want my life to revolve around the local church. I need the church. I love the church. I want to serve the church. I need to be in the church because I love Christ. Does that make sense?
It's great.
So in Christ, in church. Those are the two major goals of from my perspective, going through
That's helpful.
Ephesians, and Joey has 5 more to
No,
share.
no, no. I think that let's just leave them with
Oh,
that.
okay.
It's memorable, it's helpful, and very important in the book of Ephesians. Let's transition in light of that, in light of Paul's heart for the people within the church, the family of faith. Let's talk to them about this coming semester for them, the rest of their year. How would you encourage Valley to not waste their semester, whether it be at work, whether it be in school? How can they make the most of every moment? Living intentionally.
Yeah, that's a good question. Gosh, I want to hear your answer on this. Why do you keep throwing these over to me? So,
maybe pitfalls to avoid,
Yeah.
Lifelines to
yeah, I kind of
cling
mentioned
to.
it at the start. Just there's a tendency to be selfish in this season. And here's why. It's not your fault. It's our fault. So when you're at an educational system, it's all about you. It's all about your performance. It's all about your grades. It's all about how you're getting through. You have a lot of focus on you. And so it's going to promote, like, this is about you. How can we serve you? How can we assist you? How can we, help your schedule? Everything's you focused. And even from your families, they're excited for you. They're sending you off. This is all about you. And you might have, whether it's a mantra in your head or just kind of a mindset entering school, going, all right, these are the me years. I'm going to have fun in college. I'm not going to waste it. I've been looking forward to this. This is going to be I'm going to have fun. I'm letting nothing get in my way. And you can just kind of by default become self-centered. And so I think the best way for you to enjoy this time and make the most of it is by continuing to cultivate a love for others in your heart, where you don't neglect serving others, where you don't neglect coming alongside those who are neglected. You go to school and you're an athlete, and so you have friends, or you have your little clique that you've been hanging out with, or you're in the band, and so the band people are the cool people, and you're going to hang with them, and you kind of realize, oh, there's cliques in the school, there's this environment, they're not cool, we're cool, and it's kind of like high school but upgraded a little bit. And you might forget to come alongside others who are neglected, or to think, how can I reach out and serve those who aren't being served? So I would say just try to fight for a selfless mindset.
Love it.
What would you say, though, Joey?
Well, maybe it's something, if you could think of one word, what would be your goal? Come up with the one-word goal for the semester.
I just gave him 476 words, and you have one word.
Just, and it's gonna be different for everybody. Like, what's one thing you want to focus on this semester?
That's so good, Joey.
And make that your theme, your personal theme. Now, here's one way to apply what he just said. We're gonna break up into small groups.
Yeah, we are.
Groups of like 4 to 6. Where you're at.
Wait, what's your word though?
It's different.
No,
for
I
everybody.
know, but like, what's a word that you would like if you were in school 4 years ago? So what would you say your word was?
I think it's something that I talked with Kinsey about, but it's maybe just generosity. Like, is there ways that we could be generous? I don't mean that just financially.
Talk for 30. That's what I was going to say. Talk for 30 seconds about, because immediately they're like, but I don't got no money. I got flex bucks, but I don't have money. So talk about generosity for 30 seconds.
You have time. You have attention. You have awareness to give away. That's listening. That's remembering.
All right. So real quick, if you come to Valley, you get this. Have you ever thought about being generous with your awareness? Nope. But Joey just made me think about that, and it's good. That's wisdom. Sorry, I stood up. But that's wisdom.
Oh, thanks, Jeremy. One thing to do right now, a way to apply what he just said about the selflessness thing, is when we break up into groups, don't, your tendency is to be like, well, I want to go across the room because I know someone over there, or maybe I just leave early. Maybe just surrender the moment and just be like, I'm just going to go where God has providentially put me in the area of the room. And listen to the answers.
Surrender
It's just
the moment.
it's a very easy thing.
Comes up with
We're
this
going to put
stuff.
some questions up here. It's just like, what's your name? Tell your story. what are you doing this semester? What are your hobbies? And like just simple things. It'll be 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes. We're going to put a clock up that said a countdown 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes just to get to know the people around you.
Surrender these 10 minutes.
That's it. So
Love it.
Before we move into that time, Jeremy, what's one thing that you love, or maybe a couple things that you love about Valley? Not, you've already given the goal of Valley, like the big picture. But what do you love about this group, these people here? What's something unique about this people that you love?
I've never been around a group of young people so passionate about growing in knowledge and applying that in life. Yeah. Oftentimes you'll find people who are like super committed, like let's just study the Bible all the time and I want to know more about theology, but you don't see it outworked in their life. It doesn't descend, And then you'll see others where they're just like super passionate about people, but they don't really give a rip about the depths of understanding. And I've never been involved in an area or a ministry with so many fellow young people who are so passionate about Christ and then like being his hands and feet. Yeah. So it's like a community, it's a very rare to find community. Yeah. What about you? One thing you love about Valley?
I do think it's it is the best time I've ever had in ministry. I say that pretty often, but it is a really magical time. This group is spectacular. Yeah. And I do see the same thing. I do see that there's this overlap of both those things. It is very passionate, both about really knowing Christ in a particular way. Like you love the scriptures. It's just so evident. But then you also have a love for others. The community here is very tight. So if you're new, we would love to see you guys be a part of this family.
Yeah.
So
welcome to Valley.
Welcome to Valley.